Right at it. Right at it. Oh,
Jordan
he's
Spieth.
done it again. Just as he did at the John Deere for his first win.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the episode 162 of the Go Get That podcast. I'm back with a camera, unfortunately, for you all. And we are back previewing the Travelers Championship. It was a travel day for me, as I'm basically a full go with the tour schedule at this point. But I'll, of course, give my thoughts as I missed the episode yesterday for Oakmont. I guess we'll start with that as we await Dan, because I'm sure you guys discussed overall a great tournament. I feel like the rain, it's unfortunate the time of year that the US Open's played, because I think the last two US Opens at Oakmont are basically as easy as they can be played. As that course can be played, which just is a testament to how hard that golf course really is. I don't think it's a stretch to say that if it was firm, that the winner could be close to +5 even. And I really didn't see that going into the week, but it was incredible, really. I mean, there were times where on the grounds it didn't really feel like a major. But then the course really just brought it all back into perspective. Like, this is not your normal PGA Tour course. This is a major golf course. And the reason I say it didn't feel like a major is just because all the big names really were out of it pretty early. Not that 3 or 4 over was out of it after Thursday, but they all kind of didn't really make a move Friday either. So the McIlroys, the Shambos, the Schefflers, even the Rahms sort of faded away by Friday afternoon. And I think that's sort of the risk you run when you set up the golf course like that. But I think every 9 years, there's no other way I'd like to see it. I think it's an incredible way to challenge the players. It's one of the only times all year we see driving accuracy matter, even though I guess the stats really didn't show that shots gained off the tee was the difference. But it definitely was how you scored around this place, was hitting fairways. And I think that in the end it could have really awarded someone that maybe just got more of the good breaks, but I don't really think it did. I think at the end of the day, JJ Spawn probably was the best player last week. And he was the one who lifted the trophy. I mean, he was really a stripe show on that back nine in the toughest conditions all week, playing in that pouring rain. And he kept it in the fairway, and he made a lot of big putts. So congrats to him. Who's to tell whether this is our generation's Rich Beam or whether he'll go on and win another one. But for someone who was looking like he was going to be off the tour 2 years ago, I'm happy for him, besides the fact that I had money on basically everyone else that was in the conversation. So that hurt. But, I think Jordan and I are agreement with this. JJ Spawn's a much better player to have on the Ryder Cup team than many others in the conversation. So bring it. Love his game, love his fire. I think he's an asset to the team in September, over some of the other guys that are being talked about right now. And I think it's nice he locked up a spot. So overall, pretty happy with the result, given that I didn't win any money last week. And yeah.
Golf course thoughts? Being on ground? Anything stand
It's
out?
incredible. It really is. It's just about as good a golf course design as I've ever seen in my life, without having water or, I mean, the land that they were given, they weren't given much. They weren't given much water. They weren't given many. They decide to, it's a course that can survive without trees. Probably the best golf course I've ever seen in terms of short par fours inside of 400 yards. I mean, 2, 14, 17, 11. were four holes that you could make sixes on pretty easily all week, which is pretty incredible for the four shortest holes on the golf course, pretty much. Um, and I think that I said before the week that I thought it would be a better Open to view in person. I mean, on the TV opposed to in person, just because you could get to see it all kind of collapse. And I think that probably was correct. I'm sure that watching the start of that back nine on Sunday was pretty entertaining. Just given that you kind of got to just see everyone bogey and double in this matter of 45 minutes. No one did anything well to move at the board. Everyone was moving down. You never really see that. You never really see a board where everyone moves down in a stretch of 45 minutes. Um, but being on property, you really can appreciate the golf course design in terms of the little intricacies um, that you really don't see on TV, have it be the slopes or the bunkering or really all of it. I mean, the fairway bunkering is something that I wish every tour course would do. I think that if you take away how long the rough was, the bunkers were the penalty that bunkers are supposed to be this week in the fairway. If you hit it in the fairway, and you didn't roll into it, you were pitching out. Because if you hit the face and rolled back in, you weren't rolling back to the middle. And if you landed in the bunker, you're rolling up to the face. So I think appreciating that in person was something that was pretty cool. And I'd love to see the PGA Tour adopt that because the fairway bunkers are kind of a joke. It's basically just the fairway for how good these guys are. Um, so I thought it was unbelievable. I really did. I thought that it was um, probably the best designed golf, like Parkland style golf course I've ever seen in my life in person.
It's good stuff.
Yeah. What were the stuff that you guys talked about on the recap?
Most of the same stuff. Great champion, Chip, great champion, and JJ Spawn. Um, yeah, he made the putts when it mattered. I think we mentioned that he beat Jordan on the greens by like 12 shots, and you got to see Jordan bleed shots on the green all week long. Deserving champion, wanted him on the team really before this week, and yeah, he kind of solidified his spot. He's played what? He's one shot away from having two of the five biggest events so far this year. Instead, Rory's got two of the five biggest with the Masters and the Players. He lost that playoff. Deserving champion, played well, awesome golf course. I think. I mean, I just love these type of U.S. Open venues. Is kind of what I mentioned on the recap, whether it be Shinnecock Hills, Oakmont, Wingfoot, the Brutal Rough, the really hard green complexes. I just think it's fun to see these guys get challenged, and you see Rory throwing clubs, Hatton yelling, Lowry cussing. It's pretty fun. Wish we got it
It's
more.
nice to see 40 feet be a lot of work.
Yeah. No, I mean, it was pretty much impossible or very rare when you had a 40-footer to lag it up inside of 2 feet to give yourself a
Right.
tap. And it was coin and work pretty much all week.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that the putting was something that I realized was um there are just so many 15 footers that you have to be really conscious in the back of your head of where do I want to leave this instead of just going for the make. Um, it was about what I expected from Jordan on the greens. Unfortunately, he would have had to make a lot of bombs this week because he was never going to putt well inside of 5 feet at this golf course. It's a golf course that requires a free flowing stroke for one, and I think that just over the last 3 weeks, I've noticed that inside of 10 feet, he just grips that club really tight, and it's really tough for him to feel out and match speed with line, especially on the faster greens. And these are some of the fastest you'll see. Um, Still a lot of pushes inside 10 feet as well. And this is one of those courses where if you started offline, it's dead right there. Inside of 10 feet. You started offline, not a chance that putt's going in. You're not getting bounced back online by a subtle break. This course is designed to punish you for not hitting it online. Um, but it was about what I expected from Jordan this week, and unfortunately, I think he still could have played pretty well without it. If he just hit a few more fairways, but overall, I think there was a lot of good this week. It's the first time we've really seen Iron play trend back-to-back tournaments, and I think that's a really good sign. Um, I'm really impressed with his wedges. I mean, his wedges are as good as they've been in a long time. The last 2 weeks, I mean, from 80, 90 yards, there's really no doubt in my mind it's going to go over the flagstick at this point over the last few weeks. It's pretty incredible how we've gone from just trying in. I mean, we were missing greens left and right from 100 yards at the start of the season. And I mean, I think back to that time where he had like 120 yards into 10 at the Memorial. And I'm like, you know what? His wedge play's been incredible this week. I bet this is 6 feet. And it was just that. And you don't have a lot of wedges here, but the one hole that I feel like he had a wedge in every day, and really only hit one poor wedge, which was to 30 feet. He pulled it. All the other ones went right over the flag, was 11. Um, and even though he ended up three putting that one time, even the shots on 11 that went to 30 feet, just spun just a little bit too much. And if you spin a little bit too much on that green of those front pins, they're gonna kind of shot. They're gonna go into a swale. But they were still unbelievable iron shots or wedge shots. So that's really good news going into this week of the Travelers because there's a lot of wedges this week. And, I think that I'm interested to see. I bet a lot of people who putted poorly at the at Oakmont will putt well here this week, and I bet a lot of people that putted well won't putt that well here this week. I think it'll be interesting to look at that. The greens are just so different. I mean, I was walking on some of the greens after the tournament was done, and I mean, I've never seen. I mean, it literally looked like glass. I mean, they like you couldn't even pick a blade out of the ground. It was so short. Um, and this was at six. This was at 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. After it had grown all day. So it's pretty incredible what those green surfaces were, and no excuse to Jordan, but I think that inside of 5 feet just never really suited him at that golf course. Um, though his mechanics never were really going to produce a good putting week inside of that range, but hit a lot of good putts from the normal range like he has been. So just got to hope that he keeps throwing wedges close and can make them on some definitely easier greens this week.
Yeah, just about a wedge fest this week at the Travelers in your backyard in Cromwell. Shortest course on tour, I think,
Yep.
6,800 something
Yep.
yards. I assume it's been pretty wet up there. Seems like we're getting hit with some rain in the East Coast, so expecting it to be, I mean, obviously compared to last week, scoreable, but pretty scoreable overall.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean it's gonna be some of the windiest we'll get all summer this weekend, which is nice.
that's nice because
But it will be soft.
that place is pretty cool because I mean some years like last year you'll have the winner be what 22, 23, and then you've seen Harris English win at like 13. So I think if we can land in the middle this year, that'd be appreciated if it wasn't, every hole being a birdie hole. But regardless, signature event. Dang, Mike falling down here. Points on the line, points, which were probably I would think a little bit too far off of at this point, but definitely FedEx Cup points. 37th right now, so I guess far from in, to East Lake. I mean, could use some points, could use some I guess dollars, and really could use contention. I think we've Saturday at Memorial kind of Dan and I were talking about the U.S. Open recap. Even Saturday at Oakmont, you felt something. Be nice to start feeling it a little bit on Sunday. Usually we go into that back nine, but another opportunity, more boots on the ground this week, Bob, but probably the easiest walk of the three you've done, I would think, just because of the length of the golf course. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunately far from. There's a lot of there's a lot of distance in between holes, unfortunately. But not as hilly. Oh, that's something that you really don't appreciate on TV. Is how hilly. Never seen a golf course as hilly as that one. Um, which you don't see when you look, but I don't know how downhill the first hole looked on TV, but it was 10 times that in person. That approach shot is a straight shot downhill. You can't really see the flag if you're 10 yards before the cliff edge. Um, and it's just a straight drop downhill. Same with as I mean, I've never seen a tee shot as uphill as the ninth. I mean, they were clearing the top of the fairway by probably 5 to 10 feet with the tee shots. Obviously, Jordans were headed left most of the week. But yeah, that was definitely a harder walk than anything I've really done. I know that Caves Valley's coming back this year, and I believe you say that's pretty brutal. Um,
Yeah, typically
but
when it's 90 and humid here, it's not fun.
yeah, and it was humid, but I'm looking forward to the Travelers. I think that this is a big week because Data Golf has him 22nd in the world right now, and I'm the person on the podcast that usually doesn't like to give Data Golf the end of the world or the end all. But I think it's about accurate. The problem is I really do believe that he's sort of in that last year's Henley phase where he's just really never in the tournament though. And that's where I think the big move needs to be made. I think that if you were talking about on average golf swing, average golf shot, there's probably only 20 guys better than him right now. But he's far from a top 20 likeliness to win, I think. And I think that that's the next jump that he's looking to make. And obviously we're very greedy fans because of what we've gone through and what we've seen he's capable of. But overall, I think being the pessimistic person on the podcast, I think that's not too bad of a situation to be in 6 months removed from his first swing, um, or 5 months removed from his first swing after a surgery. So, I mean, if you were going to tell me that he'd be the 22nd ranked data golf player in the world right now, which I think is probably the most accurate world golf ranking out there, I mean, I would have signed for it. I think we all would have in January, but I think we also would have thought that would have led to a little more contention than a pretty uncompetitive to an extent at Waste Management just because of what Dietrich did, and then his deepest bit of contention was probably the Honda, which ended pretty swiftly with a water ball on Saturday. So yeah.
Yeah, it's well said. I mean, 20 seconds not bad, but I've ran my Instagram page for 8 years. You've been on Twitter doing your thing along with Instagram for what, probably over 5 now. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, 22nd isn't bad, but we're tracking for trophies on Sunday. Um, and we're tracking for the contention rounds on Sunday that really get the pages flowing, the eyeballs coming, the emojis flying, and that's kind of what we haven't really experienced yet. But yeah, I mean, you kind of said it well. I mean, just being removed from surgery to be in this spot, it definitely could be worse. I mean, it could have been all the same as it was last year, and that was just miserable. You're getting feelings. I know you probably out there Saturday feeling things going into that
Oh
back
yeah.
nine. And I mean, to feel things at a US Open was nice. I mean, it's been a while since you've had that feeling. Having been to a
20 to
couple
1.
US, yeah, having been to a
20,
couple
20
US
to 1
Open.
on a Saturday afternoon is something that we would have certainly signed for. And I mean, I think that what's really frustrating just is the way that it came to a thunderous collapse or a thunderous exit. Is just that he kind of right now finds a way to do those things, whether it be like that or an OB ball or something. Like he kind of just finds a way to not win right now. But that does kind of come with experience, right? Like he hasn't really felt continuous contention since 22. I mean, that's 3 years now. Um, and a lot of that has to do with injury, and you can say what you want about whether he should have got the surgery sooner. But the more times that he sees a leaderboard and feels something and does collapse is another thing that he has to build on in recent memory the next time he's there. and as pessimistic as I am, I do think that that's important to note because, JJ Spawn probably doesn't win the U.S. Open if he doesn't put that ball in the water against McIlroy. These are things that golfers kind of go through, and a lot of times Spieth is a little bit of an enigma because he's kind of had to find those feelings now three times in his career almost. Right now in 21 and in at the start of his career, not many people have those sort of fall offs that he's had now twice in his career, where he's had to sort of regain experience and contention. But that is where we're at, and I think that every time he sees himself on a leaderboard and feels pressure on a Saturday or Sunday, that's a big step in the right direction. Um, because what I saw this week was that there's very few players in the world in the last 10 years even that can hit the shots that he can hit. So it's there. It's there, but it was certainly unfortunate to watch it go down the way it did. But um, I mean, Greller had a little bit of a strut going some of that round. I mean, that stuff's always nice to see, because it's just like, that is what we live for, and we'd rather lose in a heartbreaking fashion every time than have to deal with some of the stuff we've dealt with the last 2 years. So, it's a step in the right direction for sure. I mean, it's what, his third best U.S. Open since Chambers?
Yeah, second. Oh, since
Pines.
Yeah, but I mean, since Chambers, it'd be second, right?
Yeah.
Which isn't saying a whole lot, but
No,
we got what we got.
not a U.S. Open player.
No, he's not a U.S. Open player, but he showed he could potentially be one. For 15 holes, it seems like every round it's 15 holes that are played really well, and then it's just little things. I remember, what was it, Fridays playing 9. It's just like make that harder in 4 and get in the clubhouse. He makes a 5. Saturday got 15 brutal holes. Just get through these final 4 holes and you're golden. He couldn't do it, and then even 18 with the tournament, out of reach, but you're still playing for points, playing for a finish. It's like, can you birdie 17 and par 18 to shoot that one under, and he shoots 2 over. So it's just an inability to really play 18 holes. I guess he did it Thursday, but obviously as the week went on, he had chances to kind of close out rounds and didn't do it. Granted, the holes aren't necessarily easy, but everyone else is playing the same holes too. Someone's got to do it, and he just wasn't able to. But anyhow, Travelers Championship this week, as we said, you're going to be on ground. He's not ranked too high in my model this week. I'm not necessarily, that optimistic, but the improved wedge play will help, obviously. You're probably gonna need to make quite a few
Well,
putts this week just because of the scoring, but go ahead.
yeah, I do think you need to make putts this week, and that's really where I'm not optimistic. But the good thing about being where he's now and struggling to win versus being where he was when he just kind of sucked, is the 22nd best player in the world should theoretically be able to play well on any tour course and contend anywhere. Then that's purely statistically. Um, a good week for him should still be deep contention no matter the course if he's actually statistically the 22nd best player in the world. So I think there's some optimism to be had there. Um, it's just not the range that really fits him in terms of putting. Like this is not the week where you're going to be it's not a 15, 20 foot week. It's really an 8, 9 foot week because you're gonna have a lot of those for birdie and you're gonna have to make a lot of those. And you're gonna have to make a lot of 4-footers for par because you really can't be making bogeys out here. Even though the winner will be probably 15 under, maybe 18 under if the wind dies, but if the wind does stay as forecasted, it should be in that in between what Keegan won and Scotty won. So it's really just, can he hunker down and make some putts? Um, but I can't. None of them really come to mind. But I'm sure he had some really really loose iron swings at Oakmont that really brought his stats down. Because for the most part, it felt like he was hitting it better than anyone in the field from the fairway. Um,
Statistically, second in strokes gained approach to Morikawa. So yeah, there wasn't
yeah,
much that
no,
was
that makes
mishit.
complete sense. I mean, the shot that I really think of where I was like, wow, he is absolutely striking the ball Was that approaching the 13? Even though he missed the putt. Uh, I mean that's a long iron straight into the wind and probably a 5 iron, and he hit a baby, I think a baby cut or a baby draw. I remember it didn't move much. It just kind of stayed there and it just landed 4 feet from the pin, rolled out to like 7 or 8. I mean, that's an elite iron shot. Um, and all the wedges were thrown close. So yeah, I mean, he's hitting the ball incredibly this week. Um, really gives me just a lot of hope for the fescue greens, honestly. I mean, where he really does putt his best is overseas. It's if I feel like that's where he makes a lot of those putts. I mean, he contended in the Open for a round and a half last year with missing basically every cut around it. Um, and not that a round and a half is actual contention, but it just goes to show he was fully injured and he was still kind of scrapping together competitive golf rounds at the Open last year. He loves playing over there. So this stretch has really given us a good feeling. I feel like T30 at the US Open really didn't do it very much justice because I feel like he did play better, but that's what happens when you bogey the last 2 holes because you're mentally checked out. But it is what it is. I feel like this is probably the last third of the season. Um but if you want to conclude the playoffs maybe in the Ryder Cup and you want to say this is the second half of the season, or the second third of the season still, we may have gotten to a point where this is a little bit better than the second half, or the first third. Like we were talking about, is a big key that first one would be the worst. So I don't know. It really depends how you look at it, but a lot of good's going on, even though there's a lot of bad when it comes down to crunch time, but that'll get worked on. Um, I'm optimistic for this week. I really am. I think that his floor really is an uncompetitive T28. And that's saying a lot for where we were a few weeks ago. I really don't think there's a path to him being full blown implosion at all this week. He's just hitting it too well, and even though it's wet concrete for him sometimes, like it seems like this is now 3 weeks in a row where he's had a really good feel with the irons.
Yeah, no, it's well said. I mean, kind of speaking about the lows on the weekends going into this week, even into talking about what happened at Oakmont. Didn't drive it well at Oakmont at all, and you went through this week. One of my favorite stats, um, Jordan has played here 6 times in Cromwell and has never gained strokes off the tee here. He's 0 for 6. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a sightline thing or anything like that, but didn't drive it well at Oakmont, and that's another just, I think, cause for concern this week. Flushed with the irons and wedges, but off the tee game was poor last week, and he never drives it well here, which kind of worries me. I mean, he's hit what? They got the train tracks here, don't they? They got some water off the tee. One of the par fives come to mind. He's got to get it in play this week. Got to be playing from the fairway. The rough's not necessarily short out here, and you have scoring clubs in hand. You're going to need to be playing from the fairway to kind of go it. I think some of these pins. So this would be a good time to make it 1 for 7 and gaining off the tee because that 0 for 6 is just absurd. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is, I really do think that there's something to be said about the fact that it's the mental part of his game is not and this is something I've noticed the last few weeks. The mental part of his game is not just with the putter. I think sight lines off the tee really do matter for a player like him. I kind of felt like at Oakmont he hit all of the same fairways and missed all of the same fairways. And that was something that I picked up on. And thinking back to Memorial, I don't have really any examples in my head, but it kind of made sense. For instance, that fifth hole. I mean, he hit driver every day, basically, or 3-wood, way more club than the rest of the field, and he striped it almost every time. Whereas 9, he never hit the fairway until Sunday. So I think that sight lines are a big thing, and I think that's probably why it's 0 for 6. I think that this course really just doesn't set up to his eye off the tee. But then again, I mean, if you're an elite driver of the ball like he has been, you should be able to not lose strokes
Figure
here.
it out.
So
Yeah.
figure it out. Yeah. But missing the fairway really isn't that big of a penalty here if you miss in the right spots. You should still be able to make par, but it does take away birdie opportunities.
Yeah.
It's certainly not a big deal comparative.
No. But yeah, I mean, kind of as you said here, it takes away birdie opportunities, whereas at Oakmont, I mean, you're just hoping you make a par. But yeah, I mean, you got to make birdies this week. Got to find the fairway and give him some wedges in hand. But we don't have Dan. We're kind of been waiting for Dan to chime in to give his Travelers thoughts. I don't know if I have anything else on the Travelers really. Um, Not really optimistic, not pessimistic. Kind of in the same boat as you at the high floor. I mean, he's the 22nd player in the world, kind of as you've been saying. The floor should be relatively high. Shouldn't be any blowing up. Shouldn't be any numbers higher than probably like 73 at the very, very worst. Probably 72 with probably how easy it'll play. So high floor and then,
Well, this is a par 70.
yeah, so hopefully 71, 72 at
I
worst.
don't think 73 should be in the bag.
Yeah, that'd be blowing up 73.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know what was this is a talking point that we can talk about until Dan gets here. I mean, why not a 65 on Thursday? Last week was the first time he really played an elite round in the first round at not just a major, but it's been a long time since he's been right there in any tournament. So that was great. That 70 was had him fully in the tournament. He was top 10, I think. Um, just a great round. An elite round, really. I bet he gained 4.5 shots that round.
Your your math is spot on, man, for not being a data golf guy. 463.
Yeah. No, I remember I was playing somewhere in the middle floors, and I think that maybe that's some confidence, because like he's not really, and that's probably why he doesn't contend because he's not really someone who shoots a Saturday 62. That's not really his mojo. Um, he's a front runner, always has been. Um, Always has been someone who contends deeply when he's in it after the first round. Um, so maybe why not? I mean, he shot his fair share of 66s and lower at this place. Um, he's done it, I think, twice while missing the cut in the same year, which is pretty impressive. So kudos to him. Um, so yeah, I
Yeah,
think
fast start.
it's a big thing.
Yeah, no, fast start would be nice. He's going off Thursday afternoon where the wind is going to be up, relatively speaking, looks like 8 to 12 with gusts in the 20 to 25 range. So that'll be a challenge. It'll be fun. I mean, I kind of wish we were early late looking at that. Watch the guys in the afternoon struggle, but should still be relatively playable, I would think. So just gonna have to battle through that and yeah, a good start would be nice and work our way into contention.
Yeah, I really do think the winning score is pretty up in the air right now. It really does depend how soft and how windy it plays. Um, I think that wind usually is more of a factor because this course really isn't that firm, I feel like, no matter what. So I really do think it'll play harder than normal. But then again, I'm sure Scheffler's in the better wave. I haven't looked at the tee times.
He's not. He's not. He's in the same
Oh,
wave as Jordan.
wow. Thomas?
I think also the late early wave.
Wow.
Yeah. Rory in the early wave. Rory early late.
Well, he's a non-factor anyways. Hardly a competitor. Hardly a competitor. That was pretty horrible from him last week. Um, Someone was saying, and I agreed with this take, you've never really seen such a beloved character in sports turn into such a villain after such a milestone. I mean, so many people are turning against him right now. And it's pretty incredible, really.
Yeah,
But
that's one
we
way to
were
put
on
it.
that wave long before we knew his true colors. Of course, like we always do. Um, I guess while we're waiting for Dan, I'll give my
Yeah, let's
go
get a
get
triple
that.
double.
Yeah,
Your
triple
leader.
double. Um, Going pretty chalky this week. Going with Ben Griffin. Colonial's a course comp. He's been a top player in the world for a long, long while, and now he has some nice win equity. Um, Gonna use him again because I don't know how his game will translate overseas. Same with Russ Henley, shorter course. Um, was debating whether to use Big Sep. Um, and still don't know if I am. I might, to be honest. I might use Big Sep in my three.
You want me to
No,
go?
I'm gonna stick.
All right.
I'm gonna stick with Vic Hovland. He's just hitting it hilariously well right now. I don't know how long that'll last, but I also don't think he'll putt as bad as U.S. Open. So,
Good stuff. Yeah. Right there with you on Griffin. I'm going Griffin. Again, same reason it's kind of been as of late. I'm just out of dudes who I really want to use, and he's down the list of guys that were there. I love the Henley pick. I would be on Henley, but I've already used him twice. He's probably my winner this week. I think he's probably my winner. I'll go with him.
love it.
Well,
He's
I'm
on the
not.
scratch card.
Yeah, no, I think he's my pick to win this week. Can't use him obviously again, but that's life. Going the Bulldog, Ryan Harmon, horse. The current form scares me. But at the same time, again, kind of out of dudes who I really want to use, and he's a what 6 top 10s in his last 7 starts here. Kind of speaks for itself. He's
Yeah.
still a good course fit. Um, he's T3 at the Heritage, which is I guess somewhat similar in terms of distance, which is nice. Hoping for some rebound, good course history, good course fit. And then for my last play, I'm going with the captain in his backyard, Keegan Bradley.
Love it.
Um, yeah, another guy that's somewhat kind of down my list of dudes I'd really want to use, but he's next up and got good course history here. He's a past winner, isn't he?
Yeah. 2 years
Yeah,
ago.
past winner. So
I was
really
there.
suit. Yeah, yeah. So hopefully he can, win again. It'd be nice. Could really use the dollars since Bob took the lead over me. Bob had Hovland last week, who finished solo third for 1.4 million and change. I had Scheffler. Scheffler only had 615K, which is kind of low for what you're trying to get out of him. So that kind of
Yeah.
sucked for me.
Yeah,
Uh,
but we also wasted a Bryson.
you guys did waste a Bryson, which was nice. I could have really been down quite a bit if
So at
Bryson
the
would
end
have
of the
popped
day, it
up.
really didn't. It kind of evened out, but
A
yeah.
little bit. You're up 500K, and we're kind of getting towards the end here. I mean, we got a signature event this week. The Open's big money. The first 2 legs of the playoffs we do. So there's what, more big money tournaments. It's gonna be fun to go down the stretch because we're all kind of using dudes right now, and it's gonna be like, who else can we go with at that point? I'm already at that point. Um, so I'm gonna have to figure it out. I got another Xander, I got another Rory, but as you said a few episodes back, when is the Rory use even gonna be usable? I think I'm just gonna have to throw him out there at Port Rush in July and hope for the best there. Uh, but yeah, and then Dan the Caboose last week had Rom was his big money maker. He had Rom and Xander, so that was nearly a million for him. But also had the Bryson goose egg, and Dan is still, yeah, about 4 million behind Bob. So Dan is going to need hitting outright probably to get back in this thing. So
Yeah. I'd like to, and we'll give Dan like a few more minutes to hop on, or if he's going to.
yeah,
I'd like to talk about Vic, because I think that from what I've seen, um, that's a pretty lost major for him. Um, Very rarely will you be outplaying guys who are inferior to you, who don't have the winning pedigree that you have, with a chance to win a major, and he really didn't make much of a good run at all. Um, and it was just really weird. I mean, that's one of those where you wouldn't have been surprised if Hovland had run away with it on the back nine, given the names that were there and given how he was hitting it. And I think that it probably won't be talked about again. He's probably moving on. But that was a really good opportunity, just about as good as opportunities get to win a major. For a guy like that. And that's one that if he never wins, he'll probably be 55 years old looking back on and being like, that was the one.
Yeah, no, he's still pretty young in his career, but he's had some chances kind of go by the wayside.
Yeah.
Just
Like
looking at,
if you lose to Brooks, like you lose to Brooks, right? But you were hitting it just about as good as anyone in the field, and you were going up against Burns, Old Man Scott, and JJ Spawn. And that was a pretty damn good opportunity. And then not to throw any shade at Scott, he never should have been there in the first place. He played fantastically. But it's just one of those where you just really wouldn't have been surprised if Victor Hovland had kind of just won. And he didn't. So he didn't really
no,
even make much of a push at all. So yeah, I think that's a pretty interesting nugget from last week. But
no, it's pretty fair point. You were on him too, so you foreshadowed the good things, and I mean, money wise, it was still pretty good. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the guys you're going against there, I mean, 23 lost to Brooks, 24 PGA lost to Xander. This one,
you
it's
probably also won't find you really won't find a course where short game talent is that unimportant. I mean, everyone's short game is kind of just equaled out based on the rough. Like everyone's just trying to put to 15 feet. You don't have to hit immaculate shots because nobody is. Um, it was just a great opportunity all around. I mean, you don't see the only courses really with the only other course like that is Wingfoot because even Torrey Pines that has that rough, the green surfaces aren't severe enough for people to be doing that. Um, so I mean, his best chances to win a major will probably come at those two courses, Oakmont and Wingfoot, and he's probably already played them each once in his prime. He'll probably only get one more chance at each.
yeah, gotta wait for the rotation to come back around for those two.
Yeah.
I think
So
Wingfoot's not that far away, but
no,
who
and Oakmont's
knows?
probably in another 9 years, which he'll still be around for. But it's rare that those courses only come around so often. Because if he's gonna win a major, he's gonna have to chip his butt off most of the time.
Yeah, no, it's well said. Missed
So,
opportunity for him. I guess looking at your triple double or one of those three dudes you're picked to win this week.
um, it's weird. It's a real chalky week. Because the top of the board is just so. I mean, I'm not even like considering Scheffler. Like I kind of just put Scheffler aside, and if he wins, he wins. Like all of my bets are on the without Scheffler market. Like I don't even really care about him right now. Like my pick to come in first or second to Scott is probably Henley.
I like it. Right
Probably
there with you.
Henley. I think Sep's got a really good upside. He's one of my picks to win. Um, but he also has a heavy downside, I think, which is why I'm going with Vic. But I don't know. I kind of want to go with Sep.
You can change it off pod. You change tomorrow night and you're like, I want to change it.
How's Victor's history overseas?
I'll pull it up for you. I actually was
Um,
just looking at his page. I know he hasn't been very good at the Open outside of St. Andrews, which is, I mean, a
and Big
different.
Sep can play in wind and rain. So maybe I just stick with Hovland and use Sep on whatever's shorter, the Open or
I actually take that back.
Scottish.
Hovland missed the cut at Troon, T13 at Liverpool, T4 at St. Andrews, and T12 at Royal St. George's. So it's been pretty good, actually. outside of last year.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna stick with it. But if Sepp
Yeah,
wins, it'll be tough seeing for me.
stick with your gut.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know what.
Yeah, no, I think we can't wait for Dan all night. Dan will get us plays in. Dan's a busy working man who
Dan is the
probably tired.
backbone of corporate America.
Exactly. That's well
But
said.
we were able to get an episode in with each of us this week. Jordan,
He got me
obviously,
for two.
bigger.
Yeah.
But nothing next week, right? Get a week off.
I get the recap off next week because I did two of these. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But
But
no,
do we have a
no,
tournament next week? No, right?
not that Jordan Spieth's playing. Just a recap
Thank
of hopefully a win that you'll see Sunday.
Would be incredible.
Yeah. We
Would
keep
be
getting to
incredible.
events. I mean, he's got to come through once for us, right?
Oh, you'd think.
Yeah.
You'd think that he'd try and do it for his fans.
The big goose egg with us in attendance.
Oh, for combined, for probably 25.
Yes. That's well
But
said. But yeah.
choosing the wrong part of his career to go to tournaments.
Yes. Yes. If only we were a little bit older when he was actually really good at golf. But
Yeah.
he's getting back to
But
being really good at golf. We'll get there.
yeah, we'll get there eventually. And it was good talking. Good to be back with my face on camera. And we'll
Looking good.
see. Thanks. We'll see
No
you.
sunscreen confiscated at Oakmont, right?
Yeah, no, no,
Good. Always good.
no,
Can't say that ever for every tournament.
no, you can't. Yeah. But yeah, I
Yep.
guess we'll see you all in the recap.
For sure. Everyone, take care.
Peace.